And this is what got to me, and I realized that this girl was being so delusional, in a sense of she was romanticizing the idea of him instead of actually accepting his reality. But these pictures where she is reenacting the Meghan Markle engagement photo shoot with the white dress at the stairs, and he's staring at her like she's the only thing that ever existed, she's romanticizing the idea of this white Danish prince who falls in love with the black girl. And this was taken after she found out about his gambling addiction, after he had taken over $30,000 from her, after she found out that he took over $200,000 in crypto from her friend. This was after the fact. So she should take responsibility for trying to put him in a box and trying to make it work with somebody who clearly was unable to be what she needed, and he clearly lied about who he was. So during the course of this video, I am going to point out the things that stood out to me. So we're going to play off a few clips. I'm not going to try to do it too long. If it is too long, then I'm going to cut it into a 2-part series, but I'm going to play a few clips, and I just want to be able to point out certain things, mainly obviously the red flags. A lot of people have pointed that out, but mainly the things that she did that were red flags on her side that make her susceptible to this guy taking advantage of her. So that's what we're going to focus on. When I watched this 26-part series of the Danish Deception, I was empathetic towards Onyeka. And I saw a lot of people do reactionary videos and commentary videos, but I feel like nobody was really holding her to the fire or holding her to take accountability and responsibility for the part that she played in keeping this man around. Because she does give a little bit of a, and I don't mean this in a racist way, she gives a white girl energy. You can see that she grew up around white people. You can see that she went to school with white people. A lot of her friends are white girls, so you can see that she has a little bit of that oh my god energy in her, and that kind of indicates as to why she didn't have that quick with it to pick up, like, no, when this man was running her in circles, she should have picked up that this is some BS. And she doesn't have that street smart, like the Nigerians would say. She don't get sense at all. When it comes to that mindset and that perception of your expectations, your values, and your morals in life, it's not a skin color. There are white people who have shitty behavior, aka the Danish Prince, the Danish Deceptor, and then you find a lot of black people that also have that crappy behavior, or a lot of black men that have that crappy behavior. It's not a skin color, but I've realized that it is a mindset. It is shaped by the way you're brought up, by your morals, your values, what kind of environment you grew up in, or what was instilled in you as a kid. Usually that's what shapes how you are and how you make decisions and how you handle people. So I've been called a little bit of a coconut, but I know I've got a bit of sass and street smart in me that I can pick up BS from time to time. So you can see she doesn't have that, and so I almost don't blame her for being swindled in the way that she was. I mean, this man probably swindled her family and friends out of maybe close to $400,000, right? And I like something that Auntie Fumi said, and I love watching Auntie Fumi's a YouTube channel. You guys should go ahead and go check her out. She is like the auntie that everybody should have. She is like quick with it. She is fancy, darling. Like, she is everything from couture to the way she speaks, to the way she presents herself, to how she's actually built her brand up, like in the last couple of years. It's absolutely amazing. Auntie Fumi, love you. But she said something that made a lot of sense to me, and it was like a light bulb moment for me, that people should hold Onyeka accountable, or she should actually hold herself accountable and accept the part that she played in this whole thing, because she kept this man around for still about a year or a year and a half after she found out certain things about him, and after the red flag started going off and she really realized that she was being taken for a ride, and she still accepted a public engagement from him afterwards. And these particular pictures where she is, and this is what got to me, and I realized that this girl was being so delusional, in a sense of she was romanticizing the idea of him instead of actually accepting his reality. But these pictures where she is reenacting the Meghan Markle engagement photo shoot with the white dress at the stairs, and he's staring at her like she's the only thing that ever existed, she's romanticizing the idea of this white Danish prince who falls in love with a black girl. And this was taken after she found out about his gambling addiction, after he had taken over $30,000 from her, after she found out that he took over $200,000 in crypto from her friend. This was after the fact. So she should take responsibility for trying to put him in a box and trying to make it work with somebody who clearly was unable to be what she needed, and he clearly lied about who he was. Okay guys, so bear with me if the audio is not as good as it was. I am basically screen recording myself while I'm recording this video. Okay, so we're not just here to watch what happened during this Danish deception of Onyeka Ehie, but we're here to pick up the lessons. I think the lessons are priceless in the story, in that it's like a classic masterpiece in standard of protecting oneself as it comes to setting boundaries, relationships, and so forth. And so one of the first things that I did pick up as I was watching the videos, and I'm going to show it to you guys here now, but it is the way he charmed her so quickly and so fast, right? And one of the things that we have to learn and to pick up and get accustomed to, ladies, is that charm is not character. Anybody can be on their best behavior like in the first couple of weeks, sometimes even months after you've met them, but it takes us, especially when you're dealing with a predator like Martin. Is his name Martin or is it Michael? I think it's Martin. But as you're dealing with, if you're dealing with somebody like Martin, they are going to keep that mask on for as long as possible. So the fact that he was so charming did not mean that this was his character. So I just want to play a quick clip of what it was that I picked up, and I want to see if you guys will pick up the same things that I picked up. So let's watch this quickly.
So it all started in June of 2022. I was in a place in my life where I was working 2 jobs. I was working like a dog, and we went to Hula Hula, which I'm telling you guys, 6'3", blonde. The first thing that came to my mind was, this man looks like he is walking straight out of a Calvin Klein ad. And I'm telling you guys, 6'3", blonde hair, blue eyes, chiseled skin, so tan, muscles everywhere. I was definitely taken aback, and I feel like it takes a lot for me to really double take a man just based on his looks like that. And 100%, I was a little bit just in awe. I didn't even realize that he was like with a friend at first. And so
So you can kind of tell that she was fascinated by his physical appearance, and she said for somebody who's not, usually that's not the first thing that she looks at when she meets a man, but it definitely threw her off and it dazed her from the beginning. So you can tell that he does take a lot of time in his appearance, because he knows that it's appealing to him. I mean, look at this guy, he's gorgeous, right? So you can tell that she was fazed a little bit by that. But the first couple of things that I think that people picked up he did, but people didn't pick up what she did, is that she was the initiator. And when you're dealing with predator tendencies when it comes to men, if you initiate first, then he's gonna know that she's easy, I can get her. And I saw a lot of people going back and forth online about she being a pick-me because she was on The Bachelor and then her best friend came on and said, oh, she's not a pick-me because she's been out of a relationship for 8 years. All that actually says is that at the age of 28 or 29, I think she was at this point, and she's not been in a relationship for 8 years, and between that time she has basically been on The Bachelor looking for love. So that doesn't maybe make her a pick-me, but it does make her extremely ill experienced in relationships. And the fact that she was on The Bachelor also makes her somebody who romanticized the idea of love and relationships. Like it's the movie like concept of when it comes to relationships and romance. So I just wanted to point that out before we continue. But then watch the first couple of red flags as she makes them, and this becomes the markers for a predator like Martin to prey upon.
Business, keeping it chill, and we were just small talking the whole time. We didn't really drink, and I look up and I see him and his friend decide that it's time for us to leave. And so as we're leaving, I decide to make a bold move and just ask him for his Instagram. And obviously I'm trying to be a little sly, so I ask him and his friend for their Instagrams. And we exchange Instagrams. We get into our taxi to go back to our Airbnb, and we're literally en route to our Airbnb, and I get a DM from him, and he basically said, "It was so nice meeting you. Have fun at Dalmatino. Maybe we'll see you guys later." Didn't read anything into it. I just was like, it was fun to just have a conversation with a cute guy. And so we go back to our Airbnb, we get dressed, we get ready for dinner.
So basically she goes on to explain that he does follow her to the restaurant where they go and have dinner, and that he continues DMing her on Instagram, and she goes through all of that until he gets to a point where he actually asks them to join him and his friend for dinner.
And I come up with this idea to play this game where I'm asking his best friend to describe what my ex's type was.
Marker 2.
And because we were obviously like vibing with each other, and I was just curious
to see if she.
And so his best friend starts listing off everything, like good morals, hard worker, all these things, and like I felt like he was describing me. And after his friend was done talking, my best friend basically said, you know, aside from being a good cook, she checks off every single box. And I remember I looked at him, my ex, and I said, but I will become a great cook for a good man. And he starts laughing. I remember I put my hand on his leg, and that was the first time in my life that I felt that instant electricity from someone's touch. Like it literally felt like I was getting shocked. And we instantly like had this physical attraction towards each other, and we started talking.
So at this point I want to point out that, so as I was saying, guys, I am pointing out the markers here that she put out to make herself, in a sense, susceptible to being preyed upon. First of all, she's the one that's initiating that they go ahead and exchange Instagram handles. Secondly, she's the one that initiates this little game at dinner, which she's kind of trying to I guess throw it out there that she is interested, and she's trying to figure out if he's interested in her. And that immediately, someone who's a predator and who's as calculated as he is, he picks up on that. Ladies, if you are interested in a man, it's not your place to make it obvious that you're interested in a man, because automatically the wheels start turning and he gets to see what he's dealing with. Is he dealing with somebody that is forward, or is he dealing with somebody who's going to hold back, wait, and be pursued? And if you're dealing with a predator, like in her case, the alarm bells goes off, and then he knows, okay, this one, she's going to be easy, she's going to be a target, right? And when she's talking about the chemistry and the touch and the electricity, guys, I want to say that, I don't know, from my experience, I realized that instant connection with someone when you don't know them, that's usually not, yes, it can be a certain level of energy because maybe you're at the same level of frequency, but it's not necessarily chemistry. Usually it's lust because you are drawn or attracted to this person physically, but it's really got nothing to do with emotions, feelings, or even the ideas of love. So he was really, really fast in terms of an emotional attachment. He was giving her excessive attention. So it was giving her this idea of a movie like a type of concept, the Prince Charming type of concept. And I can guarantee you, if he knew her name at this point, which he did because he had her Instagram handle, he had already most likely Googled her and he found out that she was on The Bachelor. So the idea of a romanticized type of love, he knows he's holding that card, and that's the card that he's going to play with her. And at one point she says that she got the feeling like it might be too good to be true, and it was. And like our elders say, if something feels like it's too good to be true, most likely it is too good to be true. So let's continue watching this.
And we started talking about what we did for work, and I told him that I was working as a real estate agent and in tech. And then he told me, he's like, I'm actually chief commercial officer for an ad tech company that does marketing for real estate companies. So I was working in real estate and tech, and he was working in real estate and tech, and everything just like felt like it was aligning. But again,
market number 3. Never volunteer information, especially when you're getting to know someone. Don't volunteer information, because you're never really going to hear their authentic truth, especially when it comes to men. Because when men meet a woman, first he's deciding, does he want her? Then he's deciding, does he want her for keeps or does he want her for play? And I'm not saying all men handle things like that, but 90% of men handle things like that. And when you're dealing with men who prey on women, it's even worse, because any information that you volunteer that he doesn't ask for, he can either choose to use that to take advantage of you, or he can choose to use that to mirror it back to you and make it seem like, oh my God, it's like this match made in heaven type of thing.
I'm like, this guy lives in Copenhagen. There's nothing that's going to come from this. So we were literally just flirting through DMs. So I ended up leaving Barcelona the next day, and I land, and he sends me a message, and he said, what are you doing this weekend? Do you want to go to Ibiza? And who wouldn't want to go to Ibiza? And then
so as she's leaving, he immediately invites her to go to Ibiza with him. And this is a couple of days after he's met her, right? And he's having some party with his friends or whatever in Ibiza, and he invites her over. And that should have been a red flag to her, number one, because why is a stranger that you just met 2-3 days ago inviting you back out to go on vacation?
I felt like this is the type of guy that things come easy for him, and this is not something that's going to be easy for you to obtain. And I didn't want our first weekend to be like just partying together with all of his friends. Like, that's not what I wanted. So I ended up telling him no, but I just ended up saying that I needed to work. And I thought he was never going to talk to me again, but somehow this like lit a fire under him, and he became even more persistent, and he started pursuing me even more. And he was sending me messages like, when are you going to come visit me in Copenhagen? Or I would love to come to Dallas to come see you. And I was just like, who is this man and what's happening? Still not really taking him serious. And then maybe like a couple weeks later, he sends me another message. And at this point, we're still talking pretty consistently on Instagram. We still do not have each other's numbers. And he sends me a message. He said, hey, I have a work conference coming up in Monaco, and I would love for you to come. And I read that message, and I was like near the south of France, like that Monaco? And he was like, yeah, like I can get you your flight and everything will be taken care of. And I was like, okay, well, give me some time to think about it, because I didn't want to say yes on the spot, but I was like, okay, this is something I definitely want to consider. So I thought.
So this is a couple of weeks after they've met, and basically he is inviting her out to go to Monaco. And I mean, if you know, Monaco is not exactly like, it's not like going to Kenya or like going to freaking Nigeria. It's expensive. I mean, that's one of the most expensive capitals of the world, or that's some of the richest capitals of the world, where people with like real money, old money, luxury money are. So it's not cheap. And can I just say that not only is he taking her to Monaco, which is one of the luxury capitals of the world, this is basically where billionaire yacht clubs were invented, or it's the homes of billionaire yacht clubs. Not only that, but his plan is inclusive of them basically island hopping between Monaco, Cannes, and Saint-Tropez. These are like some of the luxury capitals of the world. And this is the first trip that he wants to take her on. The fact that her alarm bells did not go off immediately, something was wrong with that. it's not cheap. And for her to invite her, first of all, he's inviting her to a business trip. So this is a guy who's busy. He's supposed to be working. He's going networking, and he's inviting her. And I think in this instance, he probably picks up that, okay, she didn't want to go to Ibiza, so she didn't want to go party with him. So how is he going to get her? He needs to dangle a different type of carrot in front of her, right? So then he dangles a networking event because he's thinking, okay, she's a little bit more into her business. She's a little bit more structured. So let me invite her out somewhere where she's more likely or more keen to come. And I think for her, yes, it is a luxury trip. I mean, it is Monaco, but also because it was not going to be a fun partying type of environment, that was a little bit more appealing to her. And I think he used the two, Ibiza and Monaco, to test where she's more likely to lean towards, which is the business, the career focused type of lane. And I think that he just used that to test her. And there's a couple of weeks in, and he's offering her a trip to Monaco fully paid for. And at this point, she should have also seen that as a red flag, because I mean, the kind of man that's going to invite you to Monaco and pay your trip is not exactly someone who is light in the pocket, and it's not exactly someone who is playing around. So either a trip like that would come because you develop trust in a relationship with someone, and he knows that this is something that's going somewhere, so he's willing to spend that on you, or it's the complete other side of the coin, and this is somebody who is used to paying for trips like this because he is buying women's time, attention, and affection, if you know what I mean, right? So either he could be inviting her because he thinks she's prone to that because she's just out here in these streets trying to get a bag, or it's a developed relationship of trust, which at that point, after a couple of weeks, it wasn't. So he was running game. And again, coming back to, if she was like just a little bit more quick with it, she would have realized, but this doesn't make any sense, right? But again, here we go. She goes ahead and she agrees.
For a while, I talked to my friends about it, I talked to my sisters about it. At first I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do it, like this is crazy. And then over time I started like talking myself into it. And then one morning I woke up and I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go to Monaco. So I sent him a picture of my passport. Basically from that moment on, we just started talking on the phone all the time, like for 1 hour, 2 hours a day. We started talking about a lot of things, about a lot of different aspects of our lives. He was telling me that, you know, he was living.
They were talking for 1, 2, 3 hours on the phone a day. Why is he so available? This man is busy. He is a businessman. He is a networking exec. He's a real invest exec. Why does he have so much time to spend on the phone with her?
Copenhagen. He was living in this condo. Obviously, he knew that I lived in Dallas. And then we started talking about past relationships. And I told him, I was very honest, I said, I actually haven't had like a truly serious relationship before. I have always been a very independent person, but I do want to meet. I do want to like get married and have kids, but I don't feel like that pressure to like force it. Like I have history with your dating. From the time that I had decided to go to Monaco to the time that
Okay, so at this point, she goes on to explain that they're talking on the phone for about a month before she actually leaves for Monaco. And there's another thing that he does during this period as well that I think she should have considered as red flags, but she probably didn't. However, she just kind of made herself a little bit available, if I want to put it that way. And he said he was in a relationship for 4 years and he broke up with a girl 4 months before he meets Onyeka. And basically he's trying to paint the picture that he's available, he is not tied to any commitments or whatsoever on, and he's got a great relationship with his mom and his sister, but he doesn't have a good relationship with his older sister. And this is also a very important part of the story, because later on you go and learn that the reason why that his older sister doesn't have a relationship with him is mainly because of his gambling addiction. And everything that he told Onyeka was a lie about why he doesn't speak to his older sister. So he kind of spins this web throughout the time that he's getting to know her that makes her feel like she can rely on him, she can be okay with him, she can be herself with him, and she can allow herself to fall in love with him.
I had decided to go to Monaco. To the time that I actually left for Monaco, it was a month. And we had this plan.
And another thing that I want to point out that he said was that they were not FaceTiming during this time. And if you've had time to go to actually listen, guys, go and listen to her 26 part story time that she tells on her channel. I'm gonna put her channel up here so you guys can go to her channel and just have a look. And it's about 4 hours if you put it all together, so it's quite lengthy. The good thing is that it's in parts, because I think she recorded it on TikTok, so that was 9 to 10 minutes every series, but it is 26 series, so when you put them all together, it's about 4 hours of content that
I had decided to go to Monaco. To the time that I actually left for Monaco, it was a month, and we had this plan that we weren't going to FaceTime at all because we wanted the next time we saw each other to be in person, which I thought at the time was super romantic. And so, you know, we started talking about like hypotheticals. I remember he told me one day, he said, you know, if we ever end up getting married, you're going to meet the queen. And I remember just like laughing at that comment. And he said, no, I'm being serious. And I said, what do you mean I'll meet the queen? And he said, well, you know, my family has a royal title. And I was like, wait, what? And he sent me this link to this site. It's called the Order of the Elephants. And he said, you can do some research and then we can talk about it. And I said, okay. So I start going through the page.
The irony about this part is that she was willing to research what he sent her about him being a prince from the royal Danish family, but she didn't research anything else that he told her. So again, it just goes to, it's feeding into this illusion and this idea of romanticizing love, where you don't really want the facts because you're okay living in the fantasy. And a lot of us ladies make that mistake most times, especially when you really, really like someone, where you're just like, that's okay. It's not such a big deal, but it is a big deal. Everything is a big deal. And if she had just had her guard up during this time, she wouldn't have fallen for any of this crap.
That he sent me, and I see someone that had the same last name as him, like some old guy from like the 1700s. And I remember taking a screenshot and I said, is this your great-great-grandpa? And he goes, now you're getting on track. My next question to you is, how's your etiquette? And I was like, I mean, I think it's okay. And so I'm sitting here like, who is this man? He's attractive. He has a great job. He has a royal title. Like, is there anything wrong with him at this point? No. And I have always believed in the term, it's too good to be true. But I mean, and I was feeling that 100%. Like, I felt like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? But it didn't drop that first month. It was just like, we truly fell in love over the phone.
So she decides that if she's actually going to meet this guy, she's gonna go with her own money. So in case that she needs to get her own hotel, she's just gonna get her own hotel, which I love the fact that she was thinking that way. The problem is that she didn't actually go through with it. And again, these are the indicators and the markers that I want to point out in this video, right? So I just want us to see this last quick part, and then I want to get into why I keep insisting on these markers. This is the part where I feel like she went all sorts of wrong, and this is where she kind of, in a sense, played herself.
I have my bags, and at this point, worst case scenarios are playing in my head. I'm like, what if this whole thing is just gonna be so awkward and we're not gonna have that connection like I think we have? But I also told myself, you're gonna have to figure it out, and let's just do this. So I walk out of baggage claim and I'm scanning the scene, and I see him, and everything in me feels peace and joy, and I just make a beeline to him. Looks at me, he goes, hi, Bambi. And that was a nickname he used to call me. And I was like, hi. And we just proceed to make out in the Nice airport for 2 straight minutes. And I am not the type of person to ever do that. We had to put ourselves at like an arm's length because we were just like going at it, like kissing. And I was like, this taxi driver is going to start feeling super uncomfortable. So we're like, we need to stop. And so we get to the hotel, we check in, we get to the hotel room, and let's just say we had a wonderful time, multiple times. Mom and Dad, I am so sorry for that part. We ended up going to dinner afterwards, and I just remember sitting here and I was like, I feel like this is my dream come true being here with you. And he said, I feel like this is my dream come true. Like, I'm so grateful to be here. Like, you're like my dream girl. And you were even better than I remembered, if that was even possible. And it just felt like everything was aligning perfectly.
And so these are the markers that I really wanted, like I was insisting on pointing out, that when you set your boundaries as a woman, there are certain things that don't, how can I say, when you set your boundaries as a woman, there are certain things that paint you out to a man when he meets you, so that he knows whether you're the type of person that he can take a chance with, or you're the type of person he can manipulate, or if you're actually the type of person who stands on their own. And this is usually what will set you apart, and that will help you filter out the garbage and filter out the Martins of the world, is when you hold on to your standards and you keep your standards. Like the first thing she did is, first of all, she's the one who's constantly professing how she feels about him. She says it first. She doesn't wait for him to be the first one to say it. The second thing was when he pointed out that during the month as they were talking, before she actually goes to Monaco, he tells her that they shouldn't FaceTime because it's going to be romantic. And if you listen to the entire 26-part series, you're going to find out that the reason why he actually said that was because he was living with his ex-girlfriend at the time, and he didn't break up with her until 4 months after he met Onyeka. So he couldn't FaceTime her because he was living with his girlfriend in Copenhagen. And those are the things that women don't look out for. When you see things like that, where somebody says they can't get on FaceTime with you, they just met, there has to be a reason, and there has to be red flags that pop up when somebody says that, or when a man says that. And that's why as women, it's very important to understand and to be cognizant when you're first meeting someone, so that you don't allow the little things that they do to implant, like to fertile the ground for manipulating you to go any further. So she allows him to get away with that. She tells him how she feels immediately, and then worst of all, she leaves home telling herself she's gonna get her own hotel room. He had actually also told her he's gonna get a hotel room, but he didn't. So she says immediately, as soon as they get to the airport, as soon as they get to the hotel, she gives up the goodies. And the first thing I thought when I heard this was like, wait, girl, I hope you carried some condoms, because you just met this man. You don't know him. This is only the second time you're seeing him, and already. So immediately, as soon as she did that, everything that could have been sense goes completely out the window at this point. And I think that is where she really, really hit it bad. So she doesn't stick to her boundaries. She does what he wants. And obviously this goes a long way in him learning and understanding that he can take advantage of her in whatever way it is that he wanted to. So these are the markers that I was talking about. And then another one of it is, at one point he takes her shopping and she picks out, I think, a pair of $200 sunglasses or something. And he says, oh, she's so cheap. And then she gives this idea of she really wanted a Dior bag, but she didn't want to come across like she was just there for the money. So then she said, no, it's not that important. But now you're setting the standard for this man to learn that you're okay with him not spending money on you. He's willing to fly you all the way to Monaco, but then you're like, oh no, please don't spend money on me. So he's already grading you based on where he can categorize you in terms of what he can get away with when it comes to you and when it comes to being in a relationship with you. And I think at one point they go to Saint-Tropez, they go out for dinner, and this is where she tells him that she's in love with him. Again, she's the first one to say it. And I just want to play this clip for you guys here quickly so that you can see it.
I remember we get to the hotel in Saint-Tropez. This hotel is so nice. I've stayed in 5-star hotels before, but like I've never stayed in like 5-star hotels that are like a full suite with like private pool. And I like looked up the room and it was like 1,500 to like 2,000 euros a night. And I'm like absolutely not used to this. And I remember telling him that, because I'm not the type of person to like walk into something like this and be like, oh yeah, like I'm used to this stuff. I'm not gonna be fake. So I told him like, I am not used to staying in hotels like this, or like specifically suites like this. And he was like, well, you know, while we're together, I want you to know, like, I want to give you the world. And I was like, thank you so much. Like, I feel so grateful. And I remember telling him that in that moment. And later on that night, we go to L'Opera and we're having a wonderful time, drinking great wine, having good food, a couple of drinks in me. And we're sitting at dinner and he's talking to me about his mom and talking about how he's so protective over her and how much he loves her and how he like would do anything for her. And I remember just like looking at him and just being like, this is like everything I want in a man. If a man is going to treat his family with respect, the chances of him treating your family with respect are so much higher. And I just felt like I saw his heart, and it just made me just fall for him even more than I had already. And I guess my thoughts had translated to my face because he picked up on some expression and he was like, what is it? And I was like, nothing. He said, tell me. I go, nothing. And then he grabs my face and he pulls it close to him. He goes, tell me. And I say, I'm in love with you. And then I started bawling my eyes out at La Opera in Saint-Tropez. And I remember just asking him, what are the things that you think are important as we like enter into this relationship? And he told me, if you give me respect and loyalty, I will give you the world. And I told him I can do that. And then I told him, there's a few things you should know. Number one, your money is great, but it's the cherry on top of a great sundae. You could lose it all tomorrow and I would not go anywhere. Like, the money is just like this little added benefit, but I love you for you. I'm here for who you are as a person, not the money.
So immediately she's the first one to profess her love for him, and he says, oh, he wants to say it, but he wants the moment to be special. So he's playing into this mirage that she has of selling her the dream that she didn't actually get to realize on The Bachelor. So he's selling her this idea, and then he says to her, all he asks from her is loyalty, and he'll be able to give her the world. And this is very pivotal in a sense that later on, as the story unfolds, you learn that when she did want to tell her family and friends and his family and friends of what was actually happening in the relationship, he would use that loyalty card to play on her to say she shouldn't say certain things to her family members because it's going to paint him in a certain way. So now she feels like she has to be loyal to him, because if she just does that, then he's going to give her the world. It's kind of like a man saying, a man abuses you and he says, don't tell your family that I'm hitting you, because if you tell them, then they're going to perceive me a certain way. They're supposed to perceive you in that way because that's what you're doing. And I think these are the things that she did very early on in the relationship that made her susceptible to him doing what he did to her. And these are the things that as women, we need to look out for and we need to be cognizant of. And one of the first things that clouds your judgment about a man is once you give up the goodies, all senses go out the window. She not get sense anymore. She not get sense. This girl not get sense. That's why she was behaving like this for the so-called Danish prince. And how ironic is that he called himself a Danish prince when he knows very well that she's Nigerian, and you know that Nigeria is the scamming capital of the world, and there are all these men who market themselves as Nigerian princes that are waiting for money. They're waiting for money coming from somewhere. They're waiting for money coming from here. And he played the exact same game on her, and she did not pick it up one bit. That's the irony for me. So guys, at this point I do realize that my laptop is not the most friendly when it comes to me having to record this using my phone, but screening it on my laptop and then having to screen record myself, watch the clips in real time so that I'm able to react immediately. So what I'm gonna do is sort of just finish this off, and then I'm gonna come and cut in and crop in everything that I need to as and how it goes. I do not want to make this too long, so if it does become too long, I'm gonna cut it into a part 1 and part 2, and then I'm just gonna figure out where to stop and then where to start off the next one. But let me just try and finish it off as fast as I can so that I don't have to cut it up into a 2-part series. I don't think it's really necessary. I mean, it is like a 26 series story time. So guys, please go and check out Onyeka's YouTube page and just give her some love and give her some encouragement if you really want the breakdown of the entire story. But on my side, I'm only gonna pinpoint the things that are relative to the topic that we're discussing, which is basically stop lowering your standards. If you don't, you will stop being prey to predators, right? So I don't know if I pointed these out to you guys from the very beginning, but the very first red flag, like I said, I was pointing out the markers, which is what she did to make herself susceptible to this guy, and then pointing out the red flags, which was number 1, charm and fast connection. Guys, that was the first one immediately. He was too charming and he was trying to develop a connection way too quickly with her, and she definitely fell hook, line and sinker. Number 2 was the future promises. He starts making plans even before the first time they meet up in Monaco, and it should have thrown her off a little bit. And again, I'll say this, if Onyeka was like a real Igbo Niger girl with the roots of Anambra State in her, I don't know if Anambra is Igbo land, but hey, I'm winging it here. Guys, if you're from Nigeria and you know which part is Igbo land, or you know which area she's from, please put it in the comment section, just so that we can have a little bit of fun with this. We don't want to be serious all the time, right? We do want to give it a laugh. So if she had that Delta girl, Niger girl in her, she would have picked up that some of the stuff was just nonsense, because he booked a flight to come and see her in the US 10 days after they would have left Monaco. So he had no idea how the trip in Monaco was going to go. He had no idea whether they were going to actually hit it off or not, but then he already books a flight to come and see her in Dallas. 1 + 1, it's not adding up, right? So the future promises and the rush to make a commitment too early on and to create that bond and to create that attachment, she should have picked up on that as a definite red flag. So if a man is moving faster than what your mind is comprehending things at, something is off. Stop him in his tracks and say, whoa, hold up, we're not doing this. Let's take a step back and let's start all over again. Because then a man knows that you know what you're doing. But if you allow him to drag you along with his little fast-paced situation and his little rush to get to the altar, then he knows he can get whatever he wants out of you, and he might not actually need to see things through to the finish line, which in Martin's case, that's exactly what he did. Number 2, the inconsistency had started. The inconsistency in this building that he has, the inconsistency of, he has these 3 apartments, 1 he lives in and 2 are rented out, and it's in a 35-unit building. And a 35-unit building, it does vary from country to country, yes, but in my mind, right, I'm not in real estate, but in my mind, a building with 35 units in will probably be like 4 floors, maybe 6 at the most. But he says he lives in this building and he wants to put an offer in on the building, the entire building complex, right? So this is probably millions. Maybe in euros it's a couple of 100,000, but where I live, that would be millions, right? So I would assume even if it's a couple of 100,000, that's still a lot of money, right? And he wants to put in an offer in this building, and her being a real estate agent, you would have think she would have picked up in the inconsistency in it's a 35-unit building, but it's fully rented out and it has the capacity to host 10 penthouses. Now, I don't know which part of the world you live in, but in the part of the world where I live in, a penthouse is either going to take up an entire floor or it's going to take up half a floor, which means you're going to have 2 penthouses per floor, depending on how fancy or what area or how huge the building is and the quality of penthouses that you want to put up, right? Because a penthouse is supposed to be a penthouse. It's not supposed to be like a tiny little unit and then you just call it a penthouse because it's on the top of a building. I mean, technically it qualifies as a penthouse because it's on the top of a building, but then you're not going to have multiple of them. If you've got a small building, you're most probably going to have 1 or 2 at the most, because it's supposed to be a high-end unit. You can't have 1,000 of them unless it's the Burj Khalifa, which means then the entire floor is gonna be a penthouse. But I digress. The fact that she's in real estate and she does not pick up how a 35-unit building has the capacity to host 10 penthouses, so that's why he's buying the unit, and then all of a sudden he doesn't have enough money to buy the unit, so he needs money, but then he keeps insisting to her that he doesn't want her to give him money because he can get the money by other means, and he would never. And this is where I want to put this clip for you guys, just to have a look and see how this played out, because to me this was just ridiculous. And he played her so quick and so fast that he did it faster than she could say Smokey. I think Smokey is her dog. I'm sorry guys, I'm sorry.
So he was gone for about 3 weeks to a month at this point, and he hadn't booked his flight back to Dallas yet, and then he booked it on like a Thursday, I remember it. So now we're in the middle of October of 2022. And so I called him that Friday and I said, hey, like, how's your day been? He's like, it's been such a stressful, intense day. I go, what happened? He's like, I found out that the apartment complex that I bought is dealing with some major foundation issues, like it could affect safety of the tenants, and I'm really stressing out and I need to get it fixed. And I was like, oh, okay, like, did you schedule the repair? He's like, not yet. It's gonna cost like a hefty chunk of change. I was like, how much is it gonna cost? He's like, $50,000. I was like, $50,000, what? Like, that's obviously a lot of money. I'm sure it's a lot of money to a lot of you. It's a lot of money to me. And so I was like, okay, like, what's the plan? He's like, I mean, I have a good portion of it, so I just need to ask my dad for a little bit of a loan. And so I remember being like, I can never in a million years ask my dad for a loan of $50,000. So at this point, I was aware of the fact that like they had this royal title, they had this family trust that like, and like the family had money. I didn't really know like how much or the details behind it, but he told me he was gonna call his dad and ask him for a loan. So a couple hours go by, he calls me and he's really upset. He's like, I talked to my dad on the phone. He will not loan me the money. He says, I've been acting super irresponsible, traveling, doing all these things. And so he just doesn't wanna, he thinks I need to like learn from my actions. And if I'm not prepared for something like this, then there's nothing he can do to help me. And so I felt really bad for him because he essentially felt like his dad was abandoning him, and I felt really bad for him. And so I said, what's the plan? He's like, I'll figure it out. Like, even if I have to like sell some things, like I'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, well, keep me updated, like whatever you need. And so a couple days go by and he's communicating that he's still stressed out about coming up with this money. And so I said, you know what? Like, I can loan you the money. And so at this point, I had paid off my student loans, paid off my car, bought a house. Like, had a decent savings. I was in a really, really good financial position. And so I wanted to help him, especially because like this man has like treated me so well and done so much for me. And I truly felt like we were in a partnership, especially like when you're talking about the future with someone. And so I told him, like, let me loan it to you. He goes, I would never in a million years borrow money for you. And I was like, it's okay. Like, I don't mind helping. He's like, that's like not even a discussion I want to have. And I said, okay, that's fine. So a couple of days go by and he's still stressing out about coming up with this money. I asked him, like, how much do you need? He's like, it's 10,000 I need. And I was like, again, like, let me loan it to you. He said, no, I'm not taking money from you. And then a couple of days go by and he says, okay, like, now I need 6K. And I was like, okay, again, let me give it to you. He's like, no, I still don't want to take money from you. And then basically like the day, like 2 days before he's supposed to come to Dallas, he tells me, he says, just letting you know, I'm not gonna be able to come to Dallas because I need to figure out this issue. And at this point, I start freaking out because I'm like, no, like, I 100% like want you to come still. Just let me loan you the money so that you'll be fine and we can, you know, be happy and be together. And so after some thinking, he was like, okay, fine, I will borrow the money from you, but you have to promise me that this will be the only time and that you're 100% comfortable with giving me this money. And I said, absolutely, I'm 100% comfortable.
But then basically he takes her around this merry-go-round of, I'm not going to take your money, I can't take your money, I would never, not in a million years. And first of all, he's a Danish prince. Where are the trust funds? Where are the trust funds that allow you to just be able to take out any financial capital that you need if you need certain things handled? Because this is a building. This is not a small house, not a small unit he's buying, it's a building. And how is it that your name cannot put you in a bank where you can walk in and say, listen, I need a business advance because I need to put down an amount, or I need to put down an offer on this building? Your name alone should get you a little bit of a leeway, because that's the whole point that comes with having a royal title, that there are certain things that should be availed to you, not necessarily because you are entitled to it, but in a way you are entitled to it. That's what a royal title is supposed to stand for. That's what it means. Do you get what I'm saying? So the fact that he couldn't get it done, and there's no trust fund, there's nothing that could actually help him get a $10,000, a $5,000, to a point where he then connives her and brings her to a point where she's basically begging him to give him money so that he can come, because he hits her with the story of, or this telenovela of, oh, he needs to sort out this business, and if he can't sort out this business, then it means he can't travel to the US. So now she's panicking out, she's freaking out because she's in love and she wants a man. So she's like, please, please, please just take the money so that you can come. A day after he gets the money, then suddenly he can come to the US. Make it make sense. But then this goes into red flag number 4, which is the excuses and the pity stories of, my family doesn't want to, my dad doesn't want to, I have to do it on my own. And then he pivots from being the love bomber to the one that is in need. He pivots to victim mode. So now he's the one that needs her to help him sort out his issues so that they can be together, because what would he do without her? And I want you guys to watch this clip quickly before we continue.
And tells me I want to leave Denmark. And I was like, are you sure? Because at this point, like, I knew that I wouldn't say we were having like financial issues, but I knew like obviously there was like a little bit of tension with like all of his expenses that were adding up. And so I was like, you know, it might be easier for me to just fly there and I can just stay with you. And he's like, I just really want to get away. And I said, okay, where do you want to go? He said, have you been to Paris before? And I said, no, I actually have not been to Paris. And he's like, well, let's do Paris. And I said, okay, I'm absolutely down to do Paris. Before I had gone to Paris, he had told me that he had made a transfer from his business account to his personal account. And obviously in the States, when you make a transfer like that, it's just like a click of a button. Like, I have a business account, it's a click of a button. But he told me that in Denmark, when you make a transfer from your business account to your personal account, it actually has to go through the IRS. They take out the taxes and then they deposit the money into your personal account. And I'm over here thinking like, that's so crazy. But I also know like Denmark is a foreign country that I don't know anything about. I didn't question it for a second. And he said, I don't even want to be around them right now. It's just like not good for my mental health. And then I said, okay, well, what do you need from me? I said, I can cover like the flights and the hotels. It's not that big of a deal. And at that point, we had been on 2 trips together, or no, we'd only been on 1 trip together to the south of France. And then Paris was going to be our 2nd trip. The rest of the times, he had now visited me in Dallas 3 times. And so I told him, I said, I can pay for the flights and the hotels. It's not that big of a deal. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah, of course. He's like, I just don't know what I would do without you. Like, I just feel like I keep hitting these roadblocks and you are there to pick up the pieces every single time. And I'm so grateful for that. And I said, I'll always be there to support you. So now we can go back to landing in Paris. We meet at the airport, and keep in mind, he still owes me $6,000 at this point. I am not concerned about the money. I don't know why I should have been concerned. I should have been noticing these red flags like, bro, like, where's my money? But again, this is someone that I am planning on marrying, and money at this point, like, money comes and goes, and I wasn't focused on that. I was just focused on us. So we finish our trip in Paris, say our goodbyes, and we start just, you know, getting depressed as we always do when we say goodbye. And I board my flight to Dallas, and he asked me, what are your thoughts on us meeting with an immigration attorney just to get an idea of what the process entails? And I said, absolutely, I would love to do that. Obviously, an offer off market for his place. And I was like, that's great. And he was like, I'm going to probably take a loss. So, I mean, I'm just trying to get as much as my down payment back. And I was like, how much are you going to end up getting back? He said, probably around $500,000. I was like, well, that's, you know, a good solid base for us to have. And I was more than okay with that. Keep in mind, he still does owe me money at this point. And so they end up going under contract. The plan is for the house to sell by the end of January. And everything seemed like it was going smooth. And then one day he calls me and he tells me that he's had the worst day ever. And I'm like, oh, now what? he's frantic. He's like, there's a fire in the control room, the electrical control room at the apartment complex that he bought. And he's just like, I don't know what to do. He's like, there's no power. Like, no one has power. He's like, I just paid this guy $2,000 to bring generators to power up the whole entire apartment. I have an electrician coming. And he's like freaking out. And he basically used all of his money he had to put towards like the generators and paying the electrician for as much work as they could do. And I was like, okay, like what now? And he was like, I need help. At this point, he has now asked me for help. He said, can you send me $5,000? And I said, yeah, of course, I can help you. Again, love is a powerful drug. I hate myself. I hate this. I hate that I was so willing to help him. And
so at this point, you would think that there should be certain things in place for him to be able to take care of certain things, especially when it comes to the business front. Because first of all, he's traveling a lot for a businessman. He's traveling a lot for a prince who is a businessman, right? He should be at home sorting out his issues, sorting out his finances, sorting out his businesses, instead of every second month he's in the US, or he wants to go to France, or he wants to go to I don't know, Portugal, or he wants to, because he wants to go everywhere every 2 days, right? And instead of actually staying at home and focusing on his business. So the emotional manipulation, and empathy is a beautiful thing, but empathy should not make you become a target or make you become a victim of somebody that wants to take advantage of you. There is a quote that I read once, and I know that my mentor loves using this, and she always says that women are not rehabilitation centers for badly raised men, or for predators, or for Danish princes and the Martins of the world. But she allowed herself to become this because he manipulated her into the feeling of, you're the only one that can help me do this, and if not for you, then I don't know what I'm gonna do. So please help me get this together, otherwise we can't be together. You have a whole entire royal lineage that you can call upon. Like, Denmark is at your feet, literally, not figuratively, right? So you feel like he should be able to kind of get things done in a country where they have royal rights in, right? But none of this is making sense to our Niger girl. And at this point, this is the part where really I agree with Auntie Fumi, where she said if she had some black friends around her, they would have been like, wake up, like what the hell is going on? You know, get sense. Just let me put a little bit of sense in you so that you can think for a little bit. And it's such a pity that she didn't have people around her that could do that for her. Then comes around to, so the inconsistency in the finances. And I want you guys to watch this clip, and then I'm gonna be back in a couple of seconds.
The IRS has told him that he owes $318,000 in taxes. In addition to that, his dad owes $12 million in taxes. And at this point, I did not have a lot of information about his family money, because I've always been the type of person, like, if your parents have money, that means your parents have money. That does not mean you have money. So I didn't even ask details about his parents' finances, but obviously I'm like, if his parents owe $12 million in taxes, they got money. And he said that the person that was doing his taxes for years and years, and also doing his dad's taxes, was one of his childhood friends that owns an accounting firm. And he's like, we've been paying a lot of money in taxes over the years, so someone must be committing some sort of fraud at this point. And so he tells me that he's going to reach out to his parents, and his parents are like, we don't care. Like, this is not our problem. This is your problem. Figure it out. And he starts to just, like, you know, continue spiraling. And so he tells me he's going to reach out to two of his childhood friends, one of which he was with this friend whenever we met in Croatia. So okay, if you feel comfortable doing this, go for it. I had not offered him a cent. So he comes back, says he's going to get $10,000 from one friend and then $5,000 from another friend. And I was like, that's so nice of them. He's like, I've honestly helped them so much in the past that, like, I'm grateful that they come. But I was point, he's short $15,000. And so he just comes right out and asks me, like, can I borrow it? And I did not say yes right away. I said, listen, I have to pay my taxes too, because I was working at an accounting firm. Obviously that's W-2 income, but I was also doing real estate, and I did very well the year before. So I owed a pretty penny in taxes, and it's March of 2023. So my taxes are coming up pretty soon. And so I told him, I'm like, I'm not comfortable giving you this money because, you know, like I have to pay taxes too. And now my savings is like really starting to like, I'm starting to feel like the financial impact, and it's starting to stress me out.
So now here we go, he's back at home, he's put in an offer for this building, and I don't know at this point if he does it before or after she finally makes it to Copenhagen, because you have to realize that when she wanted to go see him in December, I think in December, then he kept making up stories, and you later go and realize this is because his ex-girlfriend was still living at his place, and so they were still living together, so he couldn't have her go there. That's why they end up spending New Year's and right after Christmas in France, because he couldn't have her go with him at that time. And so after all the chaos and all the drama at this point, he is supposedly, he has a buyer for this building, and at one point I know he was selling his apartment as well, so I don't know which one is which one, because both, the money never came for either one of them. It's just you're waiting and while he's supposedly putting in an offer for this place, he hits her with some story, which again, as a real estate agent, she should have done a little bit of research. I know she said that, oh, because she doesn't know how real estate works in Europe, but you could put a little bit of research in, just the same way you looked up hotels, the same way you looked up flights, the same way you looked up the order of the elephant. You could have looked up a little bit of information. But now he's hit with this tax lien where he owes 300 and something thousand in tax, but his dad owes 12 million. But then when he goes to his dad to ask for help, his dad says, it's not my business, sort it out yourself. But I mean, you also owe 12 million. So if you owe 12 million, you are a multi-millionaire, and you can't help your son out with 300,000 to settle his taxes when you're in the same situation. Again, it's not mathing. It's not making sense. The math is not mathing, right? And so all these inconsistencies, she completely ignores her gut feeling all the way until it leads up to and I don't know at this point if it's before or after she goes to Copenhagen, where he needs, I think it's before she goes actually, where he needs money and he's selling this watch and he's selling that watch, because you have to realize that when he needed to settle the building, the power went off, he needed to pay someone to bring generators and back and forth and all kinds of things, and she sends him 5, then she sends him 6, and now he goes and asks for $15,000 to add on to his tax lien that he needs to pay, and he hits her with this.
And he said, you know, I hired a law firm, they've already looked into my tax records, they've already found indicators of fraud. I think I'm going to be able to get this turned around really quickly, and my biggest worry and concern is that if I don't pay this tax bill, it's going to affect my chances of getting a green card. And that's when I start to panic. And now I realize that I was just in a very toxic cycle of emotional manipulation. But after some time, he talks me into loaning him the $15,000. And I remember I only could send him like $3,000 at a time. And so I remember it was like over like the course of 5 days. And like every day he'd be like, hey, don't forget to send the payment. And everything about this felt so wrong in my soul, but I did it anyways. And this was not something that I kept quiet about. Like I told my parents, I told my siblings, like my ex got this situation. And quick side note, I did not tell them that I was loaning him money. I just told them that he owed a lot of money, and I told them about the overall situation. But at this point, no one knows that I have given him any money.
So basically he's saying that if he cannot settle or sort his taxes in if he can't sort out his tax issues, and I think at this point this is after they're already married, so he's saying if he can't sort out his tax issues, it might cause him not to be able to get his green card. So again, he's rushed her into a marriage, and he's rushed her into a marriage without her family even knowing. And now, first of all, a man who's having tax issues is not going to rush you into marriage after 6 months, because one, he knows that whatever then happens to him in terms of his tax and law issues, that could pull you in and it could drag you in. So why would he want you drawn into his legal battles and his tax issues, right? He's gonna want to wait until he sorts that out first. That's what a protector and a provider does. He does not do that. So immediately that should have been something is wrong and something is off with that. That should have been a red flag for her, right, guys? This video is getting longer and longer, but I quickly want to try and run through this as fast as I possibly can. She ignores her gut feeling. She sends him $15,000. She ends up going to Copenhagen. She sees where he lives, and I'm gonna look this town up because I really want to see, because this is not giving Sussex, this is not giving Buckingham Palace, this is giving a village in Scandinavia somewhere. This is not giving Danish Prince, it's giving Martin that grew up in a small village and went to school, to the one school that went to primary and high school, to the one primary school and the one high school that they have in that small town. That's what this is giving. I'm sorry if I'm being judgmental, but she sees where he lives. He's clearly not living in an affluent area, and this excuse pissed me off, right?
It was a really special night, and I remember my ex kept being like, are you sure you're okay with staying here? Because one thing I will say is they lived in a very, very humble home. And listen, I know there's billionaires out there that drive Honda Civics, so I don't judge. I'm never the type of person being like, why are you guys staying in this small house? Spend your money the way you want to spend your money. So I didn't think anything of it, but I was a little bit surprised. And also, Denmark is not the type of place that has all these like big houses. Like a lot of the homes are small regardless of if you have money. But again, didn't think anything of it. He asked me, he's like, I have a question, like, do you have an idea of what ring you would want? And I was like, I mean, I have some ideas, but I have not thought about it really extensively. And so he said, what are your thoughts on us going ring shopping? And keep in mind, at this point, we've been dating for like 4 months, 3-4 months. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. So we found a jeweler, we went and we tried on some rings. I remember I'm trying on lab grown and natural, and I'm like looking at the price differences, and I'm like, I am not allowing you to buy me a natural stone because that number is just crazy. I'd rather us spend money investing, doing other things. And he said, well, let me look into it because I kind of do want to get you natural. And I was like, no, we're getting a lab grown. And
this really pissed me off. And it's the same thing that pissed me off when she said they went ring shopping and he said he wants to buy her a real stone, and she's like, oh no, please don't buy a real stone. She doesn't mind if he just gets her like lab grown. And if you know, lab grown versus a real stone, the price is significant. But I mean, this is a prince who has to uphold the dignity and the respect of his family. So how does he then marry and do the Meghan Markle reenactment picture with a fake ring on her finger, with a fake diamond on her finger? Because we all know, especially even if you're not from a royal family, if your mom or your dad bought your mom a real stone, it's most likely going to be passed on in the family. So why would she want to subdue her man to getting her a lab grown stone when this is something that should be in the family? Technically, he should already have a ring somewhere in the family, even if it's his mother's or if it's his aunt's or whatever the case might be. It doesn't matter whether he's 12th or 11th in line. He has no business buying a lab grown diamond, first of all. And then Meghan didn't get a lab grown, Kate didn't get a lab grown, she got Diana's ring. So she got Diana's sapphire. Was it a blue sapphire? I think it was a blue sapphire, that ring that was like hitting the headlines with a life of its own. But for a Danish prince, that's what he should be doing, not buying lab grown. So again, she's making all these excuses for him as to why he doesn't live the life that he should be living as Danish royalty, right? And at this point, she's less and less worried about finances, but she's starting to pick up that something is off with the finances, right? And he's already rushed her into marriage. He's selling properties and he's getting married and he's having tax issues, and then now suddenly he comes up with this storyline.
And he tells me while we're in Nigeria that the law firm has settled the issue with his taxes, and they're filing a document for the accounting firm to pay out a settlement, and it'll be paid out soon, and then he'll be able to transfer me the money that I'm owed. And so I'm like, oh, I'm breathing deeply, and it's awkward because I want to bring it up to him all the time, but he's also paying for everything, so I feel like I don't want to put too much pressure on him, even though I should have. I'm still working remote. So I remember I was at the dining table working, and he walks up to me and he says, I have some really, really good news. I was like, what's up? He said, my realtor just reached out to me and said there's a very wealthy family that is interested in purchasing this apartment complex. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best news in the world. And he said, there is one caveat. Okay, so he tells me that his realtor has found a buyer for this apartment complex, and there's one caveat. So apparently it's a very wealthy family. He did not know who this wealthy family was, but this family, the way they draft up the contracts, whenever they have to buy a property for tax purposes, and there's like a certain cutoff for when they need to acquire a property, they have like their own contract drafted up that basically requires the buyer and the seller to put money into escrow, so that if the seller changes their mind of selling the house, they get liquidated damages. Basically make sure the deal goes through. I have never experienced anything like this in my real estate career. Obviously, Denmark is a different country. I didn't really know how real estate worked there. So not only is it different rules and guidelines, but it's also, I've never worked with like a super ultra wealthy family before to understand that this might be a requirement or something added in their contracts. And so I remember being like, how much is it going to be? And he's like, oh, it's going to be like $120,000. I remember just like being like, well, we don't have this money. Like, there's no way we can make this work. And so he said, I'm going to be able to come up with a loan, get a loan from a bank. I've already called them. I can get a loan from them for like $100,000. So we're just going to be short another amount. And at this point, my accounts are dwindling. But I did have a career where I was making well over 6 figures. So I still was like making a pretty steady income. But my savings had been dwindling down. So I didn't have a whole lot of money left. So I remember at this point, he's like, we should make this deal work. And I'm seeing this as a way to get out of our financial position. And let me just say, my ex, if he wasn't such a narcissistic psychopath, he'd be such a great actor, because the way he sold this stuff to me, like, it was insane. So I remember he said that he was going to take his watches to a store to see if he could get it sold within 24 hours. Obviously, that might be kind of difficult. And so at this point, he was like, how much money do you have? And I was like, I really don't have a whole lot of money to give you. So I remember I gave him like a small amount, maybe like $3,000, because I wanted to make sure I had enough money for like bills and miscellaneous. I just wanted to have a little bit of cushion. And I was getting stressed out, but he ended up coming up with the money. He says the deal goes through and that it's going to close in 6 weeks. And so he tells me what I think I'm going to do is switch my address from Denmark to the States, especially since I have been, believe you. So the deal goes through. It says it's going to close in 6 weeks. And so he said, we should take a trip to celebrate. And I'm like, we don't have any money. And he was like, well, we can just use your credit cards because, you know, like we'll be able to pay it off whenever the money hits. And this is probably one of the most like idiotic decisions I made. Y'all don't have to tell me this is stupid. I'm fully aware. But we ended up going to Portugal for a week, and we used my credit cards the majority of this trip.
It's getting ridiculous by the minute, and I don't know if she doesn't pick up on it or she just blatantly refuses to pick up on it, right? Her gut feeling should have been that something is off, something is wrong. At this point, she's already married. And this brings me to the 6th red flag of the series for both sides. And there's a certain part where she says this.
So my parents definitely started to bond with my ex a lot more over this trip. Like, I remember my dad brought him this Nigerian Igbo cane that my ex had been admiring, that my dad had one. He surprised him, brought him one from Nigeria. And he actually took my dad out and asked him for my hand in marriage, even though we were already married. And my dad said yes. And my dad also broke kola nut in front of the family and like welcomed my ex into the family.
Yeah. Yeah.
In front of the family and like welcomed my ex into the family. It's just, I mean, it was really special. Obviously, we were dealing with a lot of financial stress, but I want you all to know that like I was happy a majority of the time, regardless of the stress I was going through, which is just insane to understand.
If there are any Igbos in the chat, can you please just comment in the comment section? From my understanding a little bit is that in the Igbo culture, if kola is broken, it's almost like introduction, right? And usually with introduction in Nigerian families, that is considered you're married in a sense. So when your dad breaks kola, welcome him to the family. Technically, that's the traditional marriage. So at this point, they are traditionally accepted as a married couple in the Nigerian culture, right? But she still doesn't tell her dad that they're already legally married. And there's a reason why in the African culture we do these, the introduction, the handing over of the lobola and all of these things. It's not to say that, especially the way that a lot of Westerners perceive it, that you're buying someone, but marriage in the African culture, it's between two families. I think marriage in any culture is between two families. People have just tried to westernize the concept of marriage and make it seem like it's not as heavy of a commitment as it is, but it's a commitment between two families, and it's a commitment between two families to say that, listen, this is our child, take care of her. If you do anything to her, we're going to hold you accountable to whatever might happen to her. And his family receiving her and saying, listen, we accept her, we receive her. If God forbid something happens and he's gone tomorrow, we're still going to see her as our child, we're still going to see her as our wife, and we're going to take care of her and we're going to make sure she's good. But if you two get married and nobody in the family knows, it's basically saying that you've got nobody standing by you and there's nobody to hold accountable. There's nobody that is going to hold this man accountable because he can do whatever he wants to do and he can get away with it because nobody's going to question it, because he didn't have to actually get anybody's permission. He didn't need to prove himself. He didn't need to actually accept any sense of responsibility that is going to hold him accountable to somebody else but himself, so he can do whatever he wants. And that's why at this point, when this starts happening and it starts spiraling, so she's doing all of these things, and then eventually when it does get down to all the craziness that happens, where she then leaves her job because he convinced her to leave her job, but he didn't have the money to take care of her either. So right after she leaves her job, they go to France to celebrate the selling of the apartment complex that he swore was the best investment ever, but he still doesn't have the money because it's being held in an escrow, including he. So basically, eventually they go to Portugal to go and celebrate the supposed business deal that he had that actually never came through, and none of the money actually ever came through. This so-called escrow account, nothing came out of it. And the clip above here, this is the wedding of Rita Dominic that actually happened in this exactly at the same time that Martin and Onyeka were getting married. This was in 2022, and this wedding broke the internet for two reasons. Well, one, because she was, I think, in her early 40s at this point. I don't remember if she was 43 or 44, and so there was this whole conversation about it's better to wait to marry right than to rush it and to marry wrong. So it was a big deal for her to get married for the first time at that age. And then secondly, because Rita Dominic is actual royalty. She comes from a royal lineage and she's Igbo, if I'm not mistaken. And if Onyeka had just taken time to have the conversation with her parents and to tell them that this Danish prince wants to marry her, her father being a Nigerian man or her parents being Nigerian parents, they would have made sure to make the proper consultations. They would have made sure to do their due diligence, because they don't take marriage with royal bloodlines lightly. And I might be speaking under correction. I don't think Rita Dominic's family is sitting on any throne at the moment. I might be wrong, but even with that, everything was still taken with super caution. It was blown up because it's something that Africans in general do not take lightly at all. And if she had just done what she needed to do and make sure to consult the proper people, none of this would probably have happened, actually, because her father's due diligence would have discovered everything that was off and everything that should not have been, and she would actually not be in this place. And that's why it's very important that there's a reason we have people around us. There's a reason why we have family. There's a reason why we have what we call a community or a village around us. It is so that it is to protect you from things like this. You have your people so that they protect you from things that could happen or from you being taken advantage of. But the only way they can do that is if you're open and honest about what is happening. But eventually, when this does spiral out of control and she finds out he has a gambling addiction, he borrowed a lot of money from her friends and her family, her co-workers, even to a point where a man that he just met, who happened to be a Danish man living in the US, and this man sort of just took him on and took him under his wing and tried to mentor him just as a fellow Dane. He goes and borrows about 30,000 from this man. Then he gives him one of his Rolex watches as a guarantee, and it turns out that the watches were also fake. And this man at some point told Onyeka that he thought they were both in on it because she's Nigerian. So the stereotype of why some of them never said anything to her is because they thought that she was in on it with this guy. And she did try to make it work. She tried to clean it up. She tried to get it together until she realized there was no money. There's no money coming. And the money that he had borrowed had gotten out of hand, so much so that her father refused to divulge to her how much he gave his supposed son-in-law, and he just wanted to let it go. So all in all, guys, for those who probably haven't had the chance to watch the entire series, and I just want to wrap this up by sort of reiterating the message that I came to the forefront with, which is why I said, in a sense, I give about 60% of the blame to Onyeka, because this is what happens when we as women, one, we settle, and number two, we settle for the bare minimum, and number three, we choose to not do things by the book, to not do things according to customs, according to cultures, according to morals and values, according to the way that we were raised and brought up, because we want it to be special. We want our story to be a fairy tale. We want our story to be the unique one out, and the ideology that you are better than the previous girl, which is a complete lie, right? But the irony is that she was not the one who left him. He eventually found an excuse to leave her, and he turned something that was so small into something so big, as narcissists do, and he blows it out of proportion, and he uses that to leave her after his green card got processed. Because as soon as he got his green card, he had no other reason to stay. He leaves her to a point where she was begging him to make things work. She was begging to stay with this man. She was begging for him to come back, for them to try and make their marriage work. And he, to a point that she withheld his passport, and he refused. And he went on to do whatever it is that he's doing. I understand about a month or so after she put out this series, because their divorce went through in November 2025. And I understand about a month after she put this series out, or a couple of weeks after she put this series out, then some people started spotting him in Miami, where he was obviously dating, he was borrowing, he was doing the Danish Prince thing all over again. And at least now people are aware of what he is doing and who this Danish Yahoo Nigerian prince is. But all in all, it comes down to, if she had just done things a little bit differently, if she had just done things according to the book. And I know it's easy to always say shoulda, woulda, coulda, but this is why we're trying to develop platforms like this, where we start to openly have these conversations, so that we can hold one another accountable to the decisions that we make as women, as it pertains to how we allow men into our lives, and where we go wrong, which is what makes us prey for predators like this. And this is why we end up in situations where some women are bitter and angry and hurt, and they're not healing because of all these things that have been done to them. But you do at some point have to look within and do the inner work and say, these are my boundaries, and I'm not allowing anybody into my life who is not willing to uphold these standards and these boundaries. And eventually that is what defines your self-worth and your value as a woman. It's not the things that you have, it's not the amount of degrees you have, it's not even how much money you have in the bank, but it's the values and the boundaries that you uphold yourself with, where you're not willing to be dragged to the mud by someone, all in the name of love and relationships. Because true love, genuine love, does not do that to you. True love, genuine love does not take advantage. True love, genuine love will not rush you. It will not hide you, and it will definitely not make you do some of the things that this guy has made this girl do in this series. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please go ahead to Onyeka's channel if you've got the time. I think this is probably about an hour 30 minutes that I used to try and cover as much as I could possibly cover of this series. But if you guys really want to have a look at it and you've got a couple of hours to spend, or you're cleaning or whatever, you can go to her channel, put on the playlist and just run it and listen to her story as you go by your day. And so guys, all in all, just to wrap this up, I did want to say thank you very much for joining me on the segment that I know was probably like beat down over a month ago. But like I said, I was late to the game. I only caught it, and after I caught it, I thought, you know what, I might as well do this. I've been contemplating on this for a good 3 years, so hopefully we can be able to build a community here. So I just want to say thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and please engage in the comment section below, because that's the only way we can actually build this community and this channel, and that's the only way we can actually see if these are conversations that are worth engaging in. And please, by all means, if you guys feel like I was a little bit too harsh on her, please just express if you're like, no, you were doing too much, you were too harsh, or you were too judgmental. Please put it in the comment section so that we can just engage in this conversation and see how we can help each other grow, and how we can sort of see how to help one another to mature out of these ways of thinking, and to, like I say, level up, raise our standards, and be able to actually be the kind of women with standards that are high enough that a man will step to you only if he can add value to your life, as opposed to preying on you in order to take from you. Because catch me on the next one. And core of the takeaways of today: pace yourself. If it feels like it's too fast, it's probably moving too fast. Behaviors and promises, watch it, check it, and scrutinize it, and protect your boundaries, protect your peace, protect your sanity, protect your family members from these type of people, and protect your energy. Preserve your energy. Your energy is important, and that goes hand in hand with protect the goodies. Don't give it up too early. My mentor always says, you have no business sleeping with a man that hasn't married you yet. Dating should not be a gamble. It should not be Russian roulette. It should be consistency. It should be growth. It should be honesty. It should be integrity. It should be morals. And don't ignore the red flags. If you've ever ignored any red flags, please put them down in the comment section, so just we could get like a little kiki out of it. You're probably over it by now, you're past it, but you know, if you come across Martin, never ever 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 again. 2026, that is the world that we are living in today. I watched this clip on I saw it on TikTok and I thought it was hilarious, so I wanted to leave you guys with this little clip of this guy who barely said everything that every woman is thinking, but they are too scared to say. So I think it coming from a man is actually hilarious as hell. So have a good day, guys, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.
Don't clean up behind them. Don't invite them into your space. Date them all and may the best provider win. And the only men that have a problem with this are the manipulators, the narcissists, the compulsive liars, the men that want you to provide for them. Look, keep your options open. And to the women that say, well, I can't juggle 5 men at a time. You are dealing with a complete narcissist. This man had 5 different personalities. Every day you woke up, you see a different version of this man. You can date a different man every day of the week. Stop giving 10 years to men that don't value you, 5 years to men that don't value you, giving your body to men that don't value you, and then having children by these men. Date them all. Date every single one of them, and may the best provider win. Men are competitors. They love to compete. Make these men compete for your love. You have given yourself too easily and allowed these weak men to walk in your life and walk all over you. May the best provider win. All praise.